and he's going to house it.
It's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another Angle of Pursuit podcast, your fantasy football, sports betting, and NASCAR home. I'm your host, Kyle Robert. You follow me on Twitter at NotoriousKRO. With me to break down yet another NASCAR race as we go into a super speedway down in Talladega, Alabama. It's Brian Twining. What's up, Brian?
Hey, Kyle. Yeah, being a novice NASCAR fan, you can't help but just get extremely excited for these races, knowing the last, 20, 30 laps, you are going to see some crazy beep go on in these races, especially now that we're in the playoffs. Yeah, this is going to be one exciting race, and I may have to click over here and put this on the big screen on a football Sunday.
Yeah, it's going to be a pretty wild, very happy to have my setup behind me because there will be a lot of football, but I will definitely make room for the NASCAR race on Sunday. I'm very excited to watch it. Quick little recap of last week. Brian, is Denny Hamlin going to come steal the NASCAR championship from Kyle Larson?
Well, I mean, I don't want to say I told you so, but I kind of told you so that Denny Hamlin was the guy at the number double-digit odds coming into here. How do you sleep on somebody as good as him who was so due? I mean, he's just proving how good he is. And now he's at the track that he absolutely dominates. So,
I'm very concerned. Very, very concerned. I'm going to have to take a few shots on some outrights or something to figure this out. So let's talk about a little bit last week. Obviously, Hamlin wins. Ryan Blaney, I was excited about. I never really he felt like he was running in it the first half, and then by the kind of the end of it, I felt like he's running, but he's not really in the mix. And he ended up finishing fifth, which I think I had a top five. Fingers crossed, I believe. If I had top three, correct me down in the comments, but I'm pretty sure top five. So I'll check that off as a win. Brian, you cannot actually do the same, but that's okay.
Thanks.
But that means we get to move forward. We get to move onward. We get to talk about some odds. We get to talk about Talladega. And this is a wild race, as you mentioned. It gets real nutty at the end.
Yeah.
And the betting board reflects that. Denny Hamlin is your favorite at 9-1. 9-1 being a favorite is a pretty big departure from previous years, or previous races rather. You see Logano, you see Chase Elliott, you see Ryan Blaney. Anyone inside, say 15-1 that you're really excited about?
Man, I can't say any of these guys that I'm like, oh yeah, I think this person's gonna win. Because if we've learned anything about super speedways, is it is legitimately the most unpredictable kind of racetrack, because you have guys, staying back for the race and then making their push over the last 10 or so laps. You have certain guys that like to run in the front to avoid the chaos of the back of the pack. I mean, you can't help it like Denny at 9-1, but starting from the pole is not a place that you normally see somebody win from here, even though he did do it last year at this time. But other than him, 4 of the last 5 races have been won by somebody starting 9th or worse. And then prior to that, there was only 2 other guys out of the next 5 inside the top 6 to win this race. So this is normally
so that means we can cross off Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson.
Considering Hamlin has
Busch.
Done it, I think he has a good shot, but in all likelihood, it's not happening.
History and track record says we should be marking these people off. So let's just, if we're assuming, so you said outside the top 9 or 8?
Yeah. So the 4 of the last 5 outside the top 9, or it's been 9 or worse. Have won the race.
Kevin Harvick.
It's actually been 9, 10, 11, 12 to be specific.
All right. So Kevin Harvick, William Byron, Alex Bowman. One of your winners is coming from there. And if you're looking at 15-1, 18-1, and 11-1, those are some pretty nice paydays if we can really narrow it down like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think those are great numbers, but looking at even a guy like Martin Truex at 25-1, I know we went to him a few races ago at Bristol at a track that he wasn't necessarily good at. He's not that great here either, but that is a amazing number for a driver this good, who, yeah, he hasn't raced well here, but he's just a good driver. And give me that humongous number any day of the week.
Eric Almirola, 20-1. Love it. Give it to me.
Yeah, I mean, those are the kind of guys that I'd rather bet in a race like this.
He hasn't, like, obviously we have concerns about his car kind of in general.
Yeah.
And, he hasn't been the same guy most of the season. But at super speedways, he tends to pop really well. And at 20-1 is a number I could get down on. Lots of 25 guys. I didn't even get to fit them all in. Tyler Reddick at 25, I really like. Matt DiBenedetto, you can see Bubba Wallace, Truex right below them, Christopher Bell, Ross Chastain, Justin Haley. It's like DraftKings is like, you know what? Just cluster these guys together, throw them all at 25. We don't care.
Yeah,
we'll see if we can make it work.
Pretty much.
As you mentioned, they don't want to get caught holding the bag. They don't want to get caught like, we had a chance to, get a huge number on somebody who has a chance at winning these super speedway races. Even Michael McDowell, we saw him pop at a super speedway race at Daytona. So you never know.
I was just going to say, I'm looking over the top 20 market at DraftKings Sportsbook right now. And if you go to that, it's laughable how many people are within even money here to finish top 20. You never see this at any other style of track. Normally it's maybe the top 10, top 12 guys who are, negative juice, but every single person who is a name is negative this weekend. So you have to lay more to win. And I'll probably be avoiding that market this week, going more towards the top 10, taking kind of the longer shots, But
even in the top 10 market, we have 17 names that are even money or less. Like, that's crazy.
That just goes to show you this is legitimately a crapshoot, this track.
Yeah. So have fun, make some bets. Don't mortgage your life savings on something. Because that driver could go out easily. But there is some opportunities. There is some guys we like. I do. We'll talk some DFS here in a bit, but Tyler Reddick at 25 is somebody that's compelling to me. Maybe not so much that, but maybe like a 350 on a top 5 that could be fun. 850 on a top 3 that could be fun.
I will say before we move off the overall market, Kyle Larson at 12-1. I know last week wasn't his best showing, but I mean, this guy's had the fastest car. This guy's just had simply the fastest car all season.
Yep.
Now you add that to a super speedway, and if he drops back and uses the draft and then turns it on at the end of the race at that big of a number, he's probably a guy I could get on with a little bit of change.
Yeah, I mean, Joey Logano is somebody, if you want to talk about.
Nope, not for me.
Perfect. I love it. I like when you're not on him and I'm on him. That's perfect.
In
terms of track record, in terms of history, in terms of performance, he's, based on average rating, he has the best average rating of the last 7 runs at this track, and by a pretty substantial margin.
Yeah.
Ryan Blaney's right behind him. Guy I was on last week. I could see myself going back to like that 10-1. I know we were like talking about eliminating all these guys because of where they're starting, but that 10-1 market is incredibly compelling. Like 3 of the drivers I think have a very live chance, and obviously the reason why they're at 10-1, but I like them all quite a bit. Your boy Willie B. He's also interesting. He's at 11. We talked. He's right in that wheelhouse of a legit contender. At a little bit shorter of a number, which is kind of compelling to me. It tells me Vegas really thinks that he could actually win this race.
It's very intriguing too to see his number so low, considering he hasn't really ran that well in the playoffs. This is not a track that he has tremendous amount of success at. And it's super speedways in general, he hasn't been that successful. But I do think it is very indicative of how even Vegas understands that you can't measure somebody's ability on these tracks based on finishing results all the time because of the big one and just the way that these vehicles maneuver throughout the race. So, I think that's really telling that he's right there near the top of the field in terms of odds.
I know he can be scary to back, but Ricky Spinouts at 35-1. If you're banking on a driver who could either win it or end up in last place, I think he would be the ultimate name to target.
And he just signed a contract extension today or yesterday, was it? If I'm not mistaken.
Couldn't
see
tell you.
here.
Probably
Let me
that
see.
makes sense. Obviously his last two races
Yep.
at this track, 33rd and 38th, don't love to see it, including an accident. But this is a guy back in 2020 who got second and ninth on October 9th of 2019. Has what, 4 top 10, 3 top 5s in his last 7 races. I know it's not pretty, but at 35-1 in a track that is very wide open and legitimately almost every driver, or at least a good margin of the drivers, have a very real chance of winning. I might be on some recce spinouts. I don't know that I love him for DraftKings, but I could see myself at the betting window getting down a little bit on that.
Yeah, this is going to be a race where I'll probably have less on it and just try to enjoy it, and then maybe do a few driver matchups, because I think that's where you're going to make your money, is driver matchups, not necessarily finishing position, because like you said, it takes one bump and these guys are done for the day.
So DraftKings has a ton of obviously head-to-heads and groups. Have you noticed anything that is jumping out to you? Anything that is grabbing your attention, thinking maybe there's some serious value there?
I think for me, there's a group near the back end that's got Tyler Reddick, Christopher Bell, Ross Chastain, and Justin Haley. I think Justin Haley is very intriguing. He's starting 38th though in the colleague racing car, which is normally dedicated to Kaz Grala, but I don't know what happened to the Kazinator for this race. I mean, he used to be their ringer at super speedways, and Haley's jumping in there. I think that's a great group to kind of nitpick 2 of the guys and guarantee yourself, a decent kickback there, because all 4 of those guys have a decent chance of finishing near the top 15, inside the top 10, possibly.
Yeah.
And then one group that's very intriguing to me is it's got Austin Dillon, Martin Truex, Bubba Wallace, and Matt DiBenedetto. I would actually prefer to go the back half of that and take the 2 guys with the lowest odds, being Bubba and DiBenedetto, to finish ahead in that group, because Bubba Wallace is great at these tracks. Like we said, Truex, we liked him in the overall market just because of the number, but he's not good here. And then Austin Dillon, he's been kind of all up and down. So
yeah, he's semi interesting to me because he does have the ability to pop up, but he could easily wreck out and be out of the race. A couple of head-to-heads that kind of are garnering my attention: Ryan Blaney versus Alex Bowman. Blaney's minus 150 against Bowman. That's pretty wild. There, somebody clearly found an edge and hammered that. William Byron is a favorite over Kyle Larson. I know 115 to 105.
Ooh, that is scary.
But really, really interesting. And then Ricky Spinouts minus 115 versus Michael McDowell is a number I like a lot.
I think it's really interesting, before we get off those 2, is the fact that you also have to factor in where these guys are in terms of the standings right now. We have 2 races left inside the round of 12, and a guy like William Byron, he's sitting just outside of the advancement line. Yep. So does that mean towards the end of this race, he's going to take more chances than other people, and therefore put himself at risk of, crashing out of the race more so than people playing it safe? I mean, these are the kind of things that will come into play during this race.
Yeah, you could definitely bank on like looking for some guys that are safer to make the playoff. Maybe you find some head-to-heads where they're facing off against people that could easily wreck, easily end up, especially if they're starting kind of in that 15 to 20 range, end up in a wreck and end up out of the race. And then as long as they finish that next lap or so, you'll cash that head-to-head. So lots of opportunities there. Any other top 20s, top 10s, anything else before we head over to DFS?
I mean, like I said, the market is it's crazy.
Yeah, if you want to get wild and loose this weekend, it's the weekend to do it. Go with your favorite driver. Go with high upside, high value options. Like I said, I will consider. I'm going to bet Ricky Stenhouse. I'm going to bet Eric Almirola, and then probably a name or 2 from the top, and just sit back, hold my tickets, and see what happens.
I will say there's one name inside the top 10 that I will bet, just because I love doing this at these super speedways. Ryan Preece plus 220 in the top 10 market. You'll see him. We'll talk about him in DraftKings, but 5 of the last 5 times at super speedways, he's inside the top 20. He's got 2 top 10s in the last 5 super speedway races as well. For a guy who doesn't do well at other tracks, He absolutely kicks ass at these super speedways. He loves these places.
How do we feel about 50 to 1 on the outright market? $5. See what happens.
Sure, why not? I'm always
$5.
willing to get crazy.
50 to 1. Let's see what happens. And let's throw up your DFS card. As you can see, Ryan Preece makes the cut.
That's right,
As
baby.
does your boy Willie Byron. Work through this with me and let me know where your head's at with these names.
Well, Byron has been successful at Daytona twice in his career with 2 victories. He finished inside the top 5 in the last 2 Dega races. I just don't see how. I mean, he's starting 11th. He's starting 10th. He's got to make a push to get into this next round of the playoffs. He was so good early on in the season. I think if he avoids, traffic and the accident, I think this is a place where he could be successful at. And at 9,800, I think he's got the ability starting inside the top 10 to move up to the front. Christopher Bell, I've been avoiding him all season, but at 7,700, starting 12th, he's shown speed this year on numerous occasions. I think this is a track where, although he hasn't been that great, he's finished inside the top 20 three times in the last 5 races at these super speedways. So I think the fact that he's also on the outside looking in for advancing to the next round is really going to make him push the car. I already talked about Ryan Preece's successes. And of course, Bubba Wallace at 5,900, starting 19th at a place that he hasn't finished. I mean, 8 of the last 9 races at super speedways inside the top 20 and 4 top 5s since the beginning of last year at $5,900. Yes, please.
Yeah, and I think this is a good week to really consider some of those lower end drivers. Don't be afraid to leave money on the table. Things get wild, weird stuff happens. If you have convictions about certain drivers and you're left when your lineup's down with 1,000, with 1,500, even 2K, don't fret.
Don't feel the need to fill it with
don't
high-priced
go up
guys.
just to spend the money. Go up because you really feel like you have an edge or there's an advantage with the driver. I'll throw up mine. I'm gonna start with Mr. Kurt Busch. Perfect opportunity this week. He is starting in the 14th spot. A driver who has done really well at Talladega. Obviously, his last 2 races are not great. He's gone backwards, including an accident, but has strong finishes, has a 9th back in 2020, has a 6th back in 2019, has a 2nd back in 2018. He kind of has a track record of running decent, finishing out his run with this car and getting ready to shift for next year. Be interesting to see. I think he's in a great spot. As I mentioned, I like our Eric Almirola, who since going to Stewart-Haas has finished 7th, 1st, 9th, 4th, 3rd, 37th. I love that, but as an accident, and then 15th. So tons of track record, tons of good history, perfect opportunity, and at 9,200 for a guy starting at 20th overall,
that's
it's a great opportunity. He just has to get forward enough so he doesn't end up in a major accident. The Joey Logano price is by far the most baffling to me. I feel like he's going to be pretty well, rostered. Starting 8th, 7,900, a guy who dominates his track, a guy who is 10 to 1 to win the race. I think this is a sneaky, if you want to do co-headliners or whatever, co-dominators, he's a perfect option, super affordable, and moves up, leads a bunch of laps. I think he could easily win the race. I don't understand the price. And then at 6,400, Tyler Reddick. He's been a little scary this year just because he kind of feel like he's always kind of there, but then he's not, and then he has car trouble, and then he's like fighting with Austin Dillon and all this stuff. Last 2 races, though, he's finished 7th after starting 20th back in April and then 30th previous October. So a nice little, last 2 races at this track, does well at super speedways. I think has a really good chance at outperforming. I know it might be a little worrisome starting 13th overall, but I think at 6,400 he could absolutely make up for that price tag.
Yeah, I really love the Tyler Reddick call. I mean, the last time at Daytona too, August 28th, he finished 5th. So I mean, he's another guy. He's got decent success at these super speedways. He's shown the ability at times to run really fast. Like you said, though, the key for guys like him are avoiding the contact, avoiding the issues in the middle of the race, and
Yeah.
just being there at the end. I think that's where you really see a lot of these guys falter, is that they just constantly find themselves in those crashes.
Well, and he's good enough to constantly stay in front of the back of the pack, but
Yep.
not quite good enough to get up to the front with the big dogs. So
He's like the
he's always floating in that middle area, and
he's like
it's
the middle tier Kevin
yeah,
Harvick.
exactly. But I do like him. If you're spending up, going north of 10K, Brian, obviously I like Busch, but Alex Bowman, Denny Hamlin, and Ryan Blaney are all there. Are you considering any of those guys, or are you just going to start your card or start your lineup kind of in that 9K range and go from there?
I mean, honestly, I think more people are going to lean towards Alex Bowman starting at the 11th position, but I think the play would be Denny Hamlin. I know starting from the pole here is not necessarily where you want to be, but like I said prior to the beginning of the playoffs, this guy has a fire lit under his ass to prove that he is the best driver in the Cup Series over Kyle Larson. He's showing it since the playoffs started, and I don't see any reason for him, or I don't see any indication that he's not going to try to win this race. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I think he's going to be a guy who's probably not rostered very much, who could in GPPs help you out.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see what his ownership percentage is, because I think there is a chance that a lot of people just kind of avoid him. Either go up to Ryan Blaney or start with Bowman or Busch or Byron, one of those guys. A couple interesting options here. Justin Algiere starting 33rd at 9K. And who was the other guy? Oh, Justin Haley.
Haley.
It's the battle of the Justins. Who's starting in 38th at 9,400. Is there? I know the movement points are nice, and I know they could finish a lot higher, but are we missing something not going directly to them, or I feel this is kind of like when we had Austin Cindric priced up here. I felt like this was like, hey Kyle, go play this guy because he's an interesting name starting in the back, but nobody's going to want to pay the extra price for him to get up to him, especially when you can go with Almirola, especially when you can go down to Chase Elliott, Brad Keselowski, Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch. Like, should we be considering one or both of these guys? Should we just go double Justin and figure it out later?
I can definitely see the reason why Justin Haley is so highly thought of here. I mean, starting where he is in the same car that Kaz Grala garnered a ton of attention at these super speedway tracks numerous times over the last 2 years, and a car that we saw AJ Allmendinger win the road races. Like, there is something to be had with this Colleague racing team, and Haley is extremely successful at this track in the Xfinity Series. The last 4 times he's finished inside the top 10. He's won twice over the last 4 races at Dega in Xfinity, and starting from that 38th position in a car that we've already seen offers the speed.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see if people are swayed to go with him, or if they're of the same thought process that you brought up, that, oh, everyone's gonna roster him, so let me avoid him.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to double Justin with your lineup, you can make it really easy. You can make it work easily with Bubba Wallace, with Tyler Reddick, with Ryan Preece. There's a lot of affordable options, so it is kind of an interesting. I'm gonna have to dig into that a little bit more because even if you just go Haley, I think that might be an interesting move. Any other prices or names stand out to you from a DK perspective?
Well, like I said, I mean, like you have Logano, Martin Truex at 7,600. He's too good of a driver to think that, he's just going to continue to suck. I mean, eventually he's going to do something, right? And then Eric Jones, 26th. I mean, we've picked on him at these tracks before, so I think that's a decent number. And then, like you said, Ricky Spinhouse Jr., 6K. Starting
Yeah,
21st.
yeah. If you want to do like I wouldn't use him in cash, but if you want to have a tournament option that could legitimately win the race, like he could go from 21st to victory lane, and that could be
That would be
huge.
huge.
Yeah. Yeah, like I just built a lineup and I have over 7K left. I feel like I need to do some
Oh,
tweaks.
wow. Hey, man, no, screw that. You save that
Yeah,
one and then you go
Stenhouse,
into the other
Haley,
one.
Bubba, Reddick, Priest, and Logano.
I'll admit, I don't think you have a winner in there, but I would say every one of those
Logano
guys
could easily be
has a
my
shot
winner.
inside the top 10.
Yeah, but even if I take say Bubba out, I could put in pretty much anyone I want. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's lots of wiggle room, lots of wiggle room. All right, Brian, we talked some DK, we talked some betting. That leaves one thing and one thing only. What's your best bet for the YellaWood 500 at
Man, well,
Talladega?
it's been a rough 2 weeks for me. Christopher Buescher, yeah, he just didn't work out last week. But you know what? I'm
What?
gonna go back to the well.
Give it to me.
I got to go with this. It's the last super speedway race of the year. I've been a major supporter of him. It's my first NASCAR hat ever. 2311, Bubba Wallace, top 10 at even money. Let's go, Bubba.
I like it. I'm gonna go back to a trusty favorite, Eric Almirola, top 5 plus 280. Probably a little more aggressive than I
That's
need
a
to
great
be,
number, though.
but almost 3-1. It's a number I
Yeah.
could definitely get down on, and one I could see myself getting some value. 7-1 for your boy Ryan Priest at top 5. That could be kind of interesting.
I'd rather just go with the outright.
Yeah, hey, 50-1.
50-1, and let's go.
Let us know down in the comments who you're backing at the YellaWood 500. Enjoy the race on Sunday.
Yes.
Enjoy the NFL. If you want to check out our NFL betting show, make sure you go check that out on the YouTube page as well. That's Brian Twining. I'm Kyle Robert, and we'll talk to y'all next time.